Hello everyone. Dear students, today we are going to understand the summary of chapter 4, the rat trap. This chapter, the story has been written by author Selma Lagerlöf. She was a Swedish author, and the most important thing about her was the fact that she was the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature. She worked as a teacher in early years, and later she started writing novels and other things of literature. However, she is best known for her children's book, The Wonderful Adventures of Nils. This story is set amidst the mines of Sweden. Actually, Sweden is a country which is rich in iron ore, but during the Industrial Revolution, several industries were closed down and numerous workers who worked in those iron mills, they became jobless. The main character of our story, the paddler, is also such a kind of a man who has lost his job and he doesn't have any means of earning money. Let us meet the paddler, the central character of the story. We are told that he is a rat trap seller. He is so poor that he cannot afford good clothes, and we always see him wearing rags, that is torn clothes. He has sunken cheeks, that means his body is very weak, and one can see always hunger in his eyes. In order to keep himself alive, he begs. However, he has a small profession, that is selling rat traps. He makes his own rat traps using the raw material that he can find here, there, everywhere, because he does not have the money to afford to buy them. Throughout the story, the author calls him with several names, like the rat trap seller as we know it. He is also called tramp, means he is a homeless man, he does not have a home. Called a vagabond, means a wanderer, an aimless wanderer who goes from here to there, who just keeps on passing his time. A stranger, because wherever he goes, the people do not identify him. And he is also called a peddler. A peddler is a person who keeps on walking, selling things from one door to the other. Well, while selling the rat traps, he did not have too much of work all the day around. So several times he used to keep thinking. In the midst of his thoughts, he suddenly hit upon an idea. He developed his own philosophy. One day, he thought that this world is also kind of a rat trap. Like the rat trap attracts the rats with the help of the baits, this world also offers several kinds of baits to us, the human beings. All kinds of things. It may be money, maybe joys, shelter, food, heat, clothing, or anything. According to the rat trap seller, all such things were kind of baits, and we, the humans, were attracted towards them. And once we tried to catch them, we are caught, and we are never able to come out of it. One day, while he was walking, he kept on walking all the days. It was evening time and the weather was very cold because it was winter season. He wanted to spend his night at a very safe place. Towards the distance, he saw a hut. So he tried to try his luck and asked for shelter. He knocked at the door. The hut belonged to a crofter, a farmer. The farmer inside the house was alone, and he was pleased to see a stranger. He was a nice man. He welcomed him and allowed him in. This crofter was lonely kind of a man because he did not have a wife or children. So he welcomes the Rattrap seller, and not only does he offer him shelter, he offers him food. He prepares supper for him and offers him porridge. After eating their dinner, together they also smoke tobacco and play a card game, Mules. The crofter was such a nice man that he was generous with his confidences too. There are several things that we do not want to share with the strangers. But since the crofter was a nice man, he did not mind sharing his secrets too. During the conversations with the stranger, he told the man that he was supported by his cow because now he was old and he could not work much hard on the fields. So he had a cow which yielded good amount of milk, and by selling that milk, he earned a lot of money. It's comfortable amount of money. And in order to convince the stranger, he showed him the money. He showed him 30 kronors, 3 bills of 10 kronor each. He showed those bills to the stranger. And after showing the money to the stranger, to the peddler, he kept it back in the pouch and hung it from where he had taken it. The night was over. In the morning, the peddler was about to leave. The crofter too was in a hurry because he had to go to look after his cow. So both of them left the cottage. The crofter went to look after the cow, but the peddler returned with some evil intention. We know that he was a kind of a thief also, and at night when he had seen the money, he might have made up his mind to steal it. He was so tempted to steal it that he returned to the cottage and he went to the window, smashed the window pane, the window glass, and then he inserted his right arm inside and picked up that leather pouch which contained the money. He took out the money and went away from there. Since it was not safe to walk through the highways, he decided to go through the woods. In the woods, he kept on walking and walking, but it was a very deep and dark forest. It was so big that he didn't know where to go. It was a confusing kind of forest, and the peddler, he kept walking around the entire day, and several times he felt that he had been walking at the same place. The whole forest seemed to him like a prison where he had been trapped. Once again, he remembered his own philosophy. He thought that he had become the victim of the bait. Now it was his turn, and that he would not be able to survive. He would die here in the forest. He was filled with gloom, despair, and sadness. He was so tired that he lay down on the ground, waiting to die only. A few minutes had passed when he suddenly heard the sounds of some hammers, thumping sound. He could understand what the sound was like. He at once understood that there was an iron mill somewhere close by. So he got up and started walking towards the direction of the sound. And after a few minutes, he reached an iron mill. It was warm and cozy inside because fire was lit in the fireplace, and 2 persons, a blacksmith and his apprentice, were working in the mill. Dear students, let me tell you what an iron mill is like. You can see here on your video. Some people are working and there are three different kinds of processes. These processes are called smelting, rolling, and forging. While smelting is a process of obtaining metal from the iron ore, rolling is the process in which metal is passed through different rolls so that its thickness, the required thickness, is obtained, and that thickness is made uniform. The third process is called forging. This is the process in which the metal is given its desired shape. So in the iron mill, he decided to spend the night. The blacksmith did not mind his presence, and the peddler, he found a suitable place for him to lie down on the ground. While he was lying down on the ground trying to sleep, the owner of the mill, iron master, he arrived there. In the glow of the fire, he saw the stranger but mistook him to be an old acquaintance. He thought that this man lying on the ground was known to him. Perhaps he mistook him to be some old regimental comrade who was called Nils Zoloff. The iron master wanted to help him. He invited the stranger to his home. He wanted him to come his home for Christmas because it was Christmas time. But the peddler, our stranger, the Rattrap seller, was not ready to go. He was alarmed, particularly because he had some money in his possession. He had the money that had been stolen from somebody's house, so he feared that he could be caught. He simply rejected the invitation and refused him to go with him. The iron master went away. After some time, the iron master's daughter, Edla Wilmenson, she arrived in a carriage along with her valet, that is a servant. She arrived there and she talked to the peddler. She wanted to convince him that her father wanted the man to be their guest for the Christmas. However, through the conversation, we get to know that this girl, Edla Wilmenson, is perhaps a better observer than her father. Just by looking at the face of the stranger, she could understand that this man was afraid. She could guess that this man was either a thief or he might have escaped from the jail. But anyhow, she had come there to fulfill the wish of her father. She tried to persuade the stranger to come to her home. She assured him that he would be allowed to leave without any trouble. The peddler trusts her and agrees to go with her. On reaching home, the peddler, the Rattrap seller, is given very good treatment. The servant, they give him a haircut, they shave him and give him a bath also. He is also given iron master's fine suit to wear. Next morning, when this new man, the Rattrap seller, who is now wearing a fine suit and who has got his hair cut and is looking a nice gentleman, he comes to meet the iron master at the dining table. The iron master looks at him with suspicion. At once he understood that he had made the mistake in identifying the person. He loses his control and he threatens to hand him over to the sheriff, to the police. The Rattrap seller, the peddler, defends himself. He tells him that he never pretended to be what he was not, and he also told that he was brought against his will. However, he assured that he was ready to go as he had come, wearing his old rags. He also tells the iron master the philosophy, that he had his own philosophy of his word. this world being a big rat trap and the baits and all those things. The ironmaster seemed a little amused. Meanwhile, Adela Wilmanson also came to defend him. She talked to her father. She was not happy that a man who had to be their guest for the Christmas season was not allowed to stay there. She tried to convince her father that they should allow him to stay for the Christmas, for the festival. Reluctantly, the ironmaster gives his permission, but he fears that his daughter might have to regret later. Adela Wilmanson talks very nicely and gently to the stranger. She also tells him that the suit he was wearing was kind of a Christmas gift for him. Throughout the next day, he is given the best of the treatment. He is served with the best of the festival foods, and is also given Christmas presents. But through the story, we come to know that most of the time, this rat trap seller kept on sleeping. He had to be woken up again and again for meals and for all the kinds of functions. Adela Wilmanson also assures the rat trap seller that he was their guest and he could come to their house the next Christmas also if he wished to. The next morning, the ironmaster and his daughter Adela, they go to the church because it was Christmas Day. At the church, they meet several people and they learn about the peddler. The people there are talking about a man, a stranger who is a vagabond kind of a person and who had stolen some money from a crofter's house at a nearby village. The ironmaster was sure that the man in their house was the same person who had stolen the crofter's money. Adela too was very sad and dejected. They come home, and on reaching home, their servant tells them that the peddler had gone and that he had left a Christmas gift for Adela. Adela was surprised. She saw the gift, she opened the wrap, and when she opened the wrap, she found that it was a tiny rat trap which had been wrapped in a newspaper. Inside the rat trap, there were 3 10-kronor bills, that is 30 kronor, the money that the peddler had stolen from the crofter's house. And perhaps he had left this money and this gift for her as a mark of his gratitude for Adela's kindness. He requests, he had also left a note for her and had requested Adela to return the money to the crofter. And at the end of the letter, he signed it as Captain von Stalin. The text of the letter was like this: Honorable and Noble Miss, since you have been so nice to me all day long, as if I was a captain, I want to be nice to you in return, as if I was a real captain. For I do not want you to be embarrassed at this Christmas season by a thief. But you can give back the money to the old man on the roadside who has the money pouch hanging on the window frame as a bait for poor wanderers. The rat trap is a Christmas present from a rat who would have been caught in this world's rat trap if he had not raised to captain, because in that way he got power to clear himself. Written with friendship and high regard, Captain von Stalin. Here ends the story, and after reading the story, the author puts before us a theme, and we try to understand that the essential goodness in a human being is awakened through understanding and love, which was the case with the rat trap peddler, whose goodness was awakened by the kindness and love of the woman called Adela Wilmanson. Thanks. Have a nice time.